Hi, this is the Melinda Malavo Show, and I wanted to share some things with you. I know that not only are on this show we talking about, getting life right with your nutrition and learning how to eat right, but I also want to share with you how important it is to meditate. As we're going into new changes in our life and we're working on growing into better habits and sometimes that really takes some time and sometimes it really takes some figuring out. And I gotta say, some of you know that I'm a terminal cancer survivor. I'm a abuse survivor. I'm a recovering alcoholic survivor. Um, just life survivor, period. And so I think it's really important that one of the main things that has really been encouraging to me that even no matter how hard it was, and I when I think when I first would think about meditation, I would think about like, oh my gosh, that means I'm gonna have to go to church. Oh my gosh, or it means that I'm gonna have to go listen to this pastor that I really don't believe anything he has to say. Nothing against you preachers out there, but the life that I've lived and endured as a child was a very hard one. So for me, it was really difficult getting over the whole aspects of you know the trauma, getting over understanding and making sense of it. And adults are supposed to be really amazing people, and instead adults were really horrible. And the more titles they had, the more sick they were. So it was very confusing for me as a kid. And even in a normal world today, it's still really confusing for kids. So I had a life death experience in '09, and I ended up in a coma that paralyzed me from the neck down. And I came out of that coma 10 and a half months later. And I know I smile about it now, but man, it was not fun going through, to be full of life and so excited to live and then to be completely paralyzed. It's um, and it didn't happen because of cancer. It didn't happen because God was punishing me. It didn't happen or anything. Today I can honestly say that like the reason I overcame it was because I did finally meet God. I had that life death experience, and today I like to say that God took time out of my life to meet with me because I had such a crazy life. I was working 12, 14 hours a day. When I was done 12, 14 hours a day, I was living another life afterwards, and then I would come back to work early in the morning and be back another 12 days. And my life was like that. And I was DJing a lot in Hollywood, and I was doing a lot of activities. And it kept me active. And I had the idea, oh, I got cancer, I don't want to be alone. I just lost my parents and my brother and my husband. The last thing I want to do is like be alone, because if something happens to me, and that's just simply coming from no faith. I really had no faith. The only thing I had, well, maybe if I'm around people, I'm probably safer in numbers, right? So for me to actually come to a place where um, you know one night I just went to work after my double mastectomies and reconstructive surgery. I still had third degree burns on my body from the radiation. Some of you who've been through that is really horrible. My mastectomy is like totally shredded my muscles inside because they scraped my chest lining because the cancer was pretty severe. And so the crazy thing about that is it was so dehumanizing. So um it was not fun, let's just put it that way. And then to be burned alive like that, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what more do we have to go through, right? And it took about another 6 months for reconstructive surgery, which was good, but it still killed all the nerves in my system, like so I can't feel them. So, but at least they look good. And I remember the time, where the doctors asked me, "Do you want boobs or do you want to live?" And I'm like, "Who cares about the boobs? It really doesn't care." And I was really vain at that time, but it's what's really more important. And my whole mindset at that time was totally different than what it is now. And you know, um, I went to work that day, and it was in '09, late '09, and I literally went in the freezer because my head was hurting. And when I called the doctor to ask him why is my head hurting, because it was kind of odd, he said, "Oh, it's just the effects of radiation. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Act like you're not feeling pain." And I'm like, I can't. It's paralyzing me in the back of my head and all the way down through my spine, my brain stem, all the way down toward the my neck and so forth, my shoulders. And I was like, okay, the doctor says that it must be okay. The doctor's always right. There's not, the doctor knows what they're saying, so it must be right. And I went into the freezer to kind of just, for us chefs, we know how to get away in the freezer. I just went into the freezer, turned off the light, and I woke up. My intention was to just, take a deep breather, calm down for a moment, and just try to sit in stillness, right? But what ended up happening is, excuse me, what ended up happening is I woke up 10 and a half months later out of a coma. And when I came to the coma, I remembered everything I experienced out there. And I was on a different plane, and I had that life death experience, and I met the Almighty and the Almighty Creator. And it wasn't in a church, it wasn't in a building, it wasn't in any of this. And it's interesting because my mother tried to overcome some things that she had me go through. And so I met the Dalai Lama before, and High Lama, and we would run around together. And I would meet a lot of amazing people of different crafts. In New Mexico, I met a lot of shamans and did soul retrieval work, and integration work, and all purging and writing. And I remember doing the artist way. I remember doing the Course in Miracles with Marianne Williamson. It took about 6 years. Just anything to try to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And when I was in that middle of that life death experience, I understood that what was wrong with me. And my problem was is that I never believed I was valuable and loved and worthy of it. And I was never joyful enough for it, right? I always thought that what mattered was me bringing my gifts to the table, because if I brought my gifts to the table, then you're guaranteed to not reject me and let me be, right? And that was great for some people, but really not. People really don't care unless they're benefiting from it, right? So my whole value indicator was really wrong, because I was valuing my life according to what I was actually thinking people were going to do for me, in terms of validation, that I was lacking from so many things as a child. When I went through this life death experience, I remember feeling very scared because of the way I was raised. Little girls, like, who had been through what I've been through, aren't allowed to be in God's presence, right? Or the Almighty's presence, because He's so pure, He's so true, He's so good. And I'm such a bad little girl, according to what I was taught and raised in. And so for me to hear from His voice say, on the contrary, I've always loved you, always will love you, and always have loved you. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I heard that, it revolutionized my life. And I understood that I was living on a whole different tape. And I learned something about subconscious reality. Subconscious reality is actually living from your lower realities. And what I've learned to do is live in the celestial and non-corporeal understanding, because the corporeal understanding is that I am who God says I am, no matter what anybody else says. And the gift in that is that I don't have to participate or um, do things that are not right for my soul. And that's been really hard to learn coming back after the coma, because it's much easier when you're in your coma and you're actually experiencing that. But then when you realize you're back on this domain and on this plane, and you're actually having to interpret and actually have to um, deal with all the things that you're having to deal with. And um, I was really angry because I thought God kicked me out of heaven, right? In the celestial realm. That was that bad. But girl told me he loved me, but he didn't ask me for money. I'll tell you that much. But he did, he did let me know that there was a purpose for everything I went through, and that it was going to be a big purpose. And you know, I've always cancer gave me a voice to stand up, and it got me so pissed off. And even after my coma, they still gave me, I'm sorry, they, I'm sorry, I don't even know why I had to yawn. I guess talking about it, just like, oh my gosh, it's so exhausting. Sometimes it's spiritual release too, or just emotional release, because I'm totally not tired. Um, but I do know that, really making a decision to heal, regardless of what the doctors were saying. While I was up in the celestial realm, I realized that, like, I learned some things while I was up there. I learned about celestial vibrations. I learned about the implicate order and the rhythm of things. I learned about the fact that I can meditate anywhere, any place, because I can meet God anywhere, because He is with me and I am with Him, right? And we have this not parent, I don't want to say parenting or cohabitation together, but it's more like we are, everywhere I go, He is with me, and He's everywhere, and He's everything, and He's always in every particle and every cell, and I mean, and anything that is living, He is there. And that is something really, really amazing to me. I would, like, literally trip out on the fact that, like, oh my gosh, the leaves have veins and they're alive, and I would go nuts over it, and I would just sit there for hours and hours and hours, and I was trying to understand what it was, and I just wanted to be back into celestial realms. So unfortunately, I haven't been back there yet. I try to meet it every day, but it didn't work, and this is where meditation really came in, a big help in my life in healing. um, Something that was really important was that, um, you know I had to be in stillness, and I also had to make a decision to heal. See, meditation, if it's done right, is automatically going to change how you feel. It's going to change how you think. It's going to change um, your own identity. So if you're really negative and you're going to, oh, I'm going to try to meditate, and you're like, oh my gosh, are we done yet? Like, you're not going to get it because you're not giving yourself a chance. So I had to take the time to figure out some really cool ways to meditate. I called the Dalai Lama and High Lama, and we spent some time afterwards, and we were doing the chant Yangarehi Mehio, and we were going through that at the stupa, and they were beautiful stupas and everything, and the frankincense and the incense, and it was all nice and everything, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And then there was going out into the nature and just sitting in stillness and hearing all the nature, and cluing into all that, and just feeling the vibrations. And that was okay after a while too, but at the same time it was kind of okay. And then I tried guided, and then I met Dr. Mitchell Gibson. And Dr. Mitchell Gibson taught me a lot of things. He taught me about how important it is to, when you meditate, that you actually have something that keeps your spirit intact, because it's real easy for our spirit to leave our body during meditation. And if you're not in a safe environment in that meditation, or you're around a guru that's actually a parasitic guru, or someone who's preying on someone, and like, I don't know if you've been through those Malibu meditations with the guru that thinks he's so great, and the skinnier, and the girl in the yoga pants is so cute, and they like try to hit on them and so forth. It's just that's not the type of meditation I want to be doing, you know, because I found out that meditation for me is something very sacred. So it is a place where I meet God, and I make a place every day where I meet God, and me and God talk about the day and talk about life and what's going on in life. And uh, when I literally overcame some of the stuff that they said I would never walk again. They said I would die in 6 weeks, and that was a done deal, and I needed to get all my affairs in order when I came back in. And I told them, you don't create my DNA, so don't tell me I'm going to die. And that's I was very strong about it too, and my kids also, um, they wouldn't pull the plug. And even though the doctor said you need to, she's going to be a vegetable, they're like, no, you don't know my mom. Do not pull the plug. And then the next thing that happened was, I went through brain surgery after brain surgery after brain surgery because what had happened in the coma was metastatic breast cancer had gone to my brain and my bones. And it had caused 36 aneurysms, and that's what caused me to go into my coma. And so while I was going through all the brain surgeries and healing and going through coma, after the coma and healing, I was working on getting close and back with God, because once being up in the celestial realm, there was nothing lacking. I was not hungry. I was not thirsty. I was not hot. I was not cold. Everything was right. Everything was. I was completely content, and I just wanted to be in that space again. So I'm glad I had a gauge to gauge it to see where I belonged and where I needed to be. Um, but it sometimes what the world says meditation is not really what it is. Um, sometimes they say go find your inner child and see what's happening with that, and I'm like, there ain't no inner child inside of me. Like, yeah, I can be a kid, and I can play with my animals, and I can play with other kids, and and I can, be really silly sometimes. Well, okay, a lot of the time I can be really silly, but I that doesn't mean the kid inside. That's just, I have a silly personality. And but what I did find out is that um, I had to find an inner sanctuary. And I found out that, you know, how hard that really was. And I had to really work on that one. And when I think about an inner sanctuary, I think about a place where I go where nothing can hurt me. It's like down in my core, where nothing is lacking, and where I'm connected to the source, and nothing can break that source no matter what, because I'm created in his image, and just like you are. And the closer I get to him, the more I know why he created me that way, right? So the most amazing thing to me is you know learning how to relax. So I had incredible trust issues. For me to close my eyes was hell. So I had to learn how to relax and take a deep breath and be it's okay. The second thing I had to do was being willing to be guided. Now, I wasn't willing. Excuse me. I wasn't willing to be guided, simply because I've been guided all my life, and it was always painful. So why would I listen to someone close my eyes and be guided through something else? So I had to take a risk, and I had to be willing to open my mind. And from Dr. West and Dr. Mitchell Gibson and the people who were around me, and Janet, Deepak Chopra, and all these people that were around me during that time, Dr. Nelson, thank you, Dr. Nelson, Nancy. While I was learning all of this, I was learning how rage was affecting my spleen and my blood, and breaking down my immunity. Okay, because I was so pissed off about all that had happened to me, and that was a big part of like the cancer, and then just bad. It just brought everything up for my childhood because, of course, all that trauma caused the cancer. So, it was just a conundrum of stuff. And so, Janet taught me about like the colors. I know I wear black right now, but I have bright colors on. And I used to be really hardcore goth, like Euro goth, and really crazy. It was some cute outfits, but, it was just, I was dying every day, and every day I wore black, I was dying to my life, right? And that's what it's psychologically saying, is that I'm dead to my life, and I'm living my death out, instead of like the bright colors. And so I started wearing white, and I started going through a purity state, and I was juicing all every day, and I was going through this whole thing, and working on not being rageful, and then trying to meditate and meet God every day. And it was so much, but it was so good. And to be able to do that, I don't even know. All this stuff is just, every time I talk about it, I end up yawning a lot. um, you know, and as you can see behind me, I have some dream boards, and some big ones, and I have another big one on the other side over here. And, I when I was going through all of this, I they told me I was going to have to go into hospice, and I was a done deal. And they put me in hospice in 2012. I walked out of it in 2013, and while I was in there, I was dreaming my new life. Even though they were trying to say, okay, you're done, you're gonna die, get ready, it's okay. And I had all this emotion, and just like, God, I can't believe life just ended up this way for me, right? I thought it was gonna be different. And one of my Eskimos kept coming to me every single day and telling me, no, you have to live. You can't give up. God wants you to live. Like, there's a reason why you met him. And I would get really mad. Why are you even here? Like, let me die. Right? She's like, no, I'm not going to let you die. In 2013, May 23rd of 2013, I called my friend and I said, come get me. And I signed myself against medical approval and AMA, and she came and got me, and I went to my doctor, and I started a regimen with Dr. Rab, and I started doing the incurables, and I started healing, and I was committed. And um, it was very important that every day I meet God. And because I found out that the more I met God, now I'm not talking about church, I'm not talking about all that religious crap. That has nothing to do with God. As a matter of fact, even in the celestial realm, religion is a demon, and it has nothing to do with what God is trying to say in any way, shape, or form. So that is what has really happened there. Um, the other thing is every time I got close to God, because He lacks nothing, and because He is all loving, all knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent, and and lacks nothing. And so that means He lacks no healing. He doesn't lack any of that stuff. So in Him I am perfected, and I am complete, and I am whole. So I would go into these meditations, and I would just start envisioning myself in his presence, where I was healed again, and I had my body right, and I had my mind right, and I had every 62 trillion cells in my body completely in alignment with the Spirit of God. And the more I did that, the healthier it became for me, and I started getting more excited to live. And for those who are out there suffering with cancer, or doing whatever through the disease, or it's just very painful walking through, keep doing it. Don't give up no matter what. That miracle is just right around the corner. And I've heard a statement over and over and over: don't give up before the miracle, because you are the miracle, right? And that was really amazing for me to hear. So you know in hospice, I was able to walk out and take that chance, because what did I have to lose? Nothing. I had already lost everything. And but what I did have to do was like dream my new life. So while they're thinking I'm gonna die, and being told I'm gonna die, I'm gonna do everything I can to live, right. So once I get out of hospice, what is my life going to be like, right? And this is where it really became really crazy because um, I had to really trust the situation, and I had to really trust people, and I really had to trust that God was guiding me in all the areas of my life. And it was very crazy. It was very, because I had never lived in faith. I've always, if I couldn't do it, then I wasn't worth it. So to be able to truly overcome and heal is an incredible thing. And in 2015, I had my last chemo treatment, and I got a clean bill of health. And as you can see, there's a picture up here of, a friend who painted that for me when I walked out of hospice. And I would sit and meditate every single day to that. And, it's the true on, right? And it's a beautiful picture because, God has feelings just like us, and to know that I am sacred and I am precious just as his daughter. And I'm not getting into all the bureaucratic or political crap about what people think and blah 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 blah. I'm not there. Like, that's not anything what happened. It's like, if I want to heal, I have some choices. So what am I do to heal? And so the most important thing that you can do in your healing is keep healing and don't stop until you get the results that you want. And and even after that, keep doing the things that got you healthy. See, even though I beat terminal cancer, I didn't stop doing the things that kept me healing cancer because I didn't want it to come back in a vengeance. And there's many stories out there where people got healed and they went back to their old life, and then they found them dead like months later, right? Like, I didn't want to be that statistic with that. I wanted to eliminate it at the core and at the gut and be completely done with it. So this is where meditation and guided imagery really helped me, because I got to find a dialogue that I could go and I can talk to God with, right? And because I had I had started a relationship with Him, I could ask Him anything. And the most amazing thing is that He would tell me what was up, and I would be able to, like, okay, take this from my body, or here, you could have this. So I want to really encourage everybody. I don't know why. Oh wow. Um, Something else about meditation that's really good is expressing creativity. Expressing creativity through meditation is a very amazing thing too. So I would meditate for days, for hours in a day, and then I would start writing. Or I would meditate and then I would do some music and I'd be on the piano. There was so much I would do, right? And, the other thing is, um, I'm a very strong person. But I'm very feminine at the same time. So there's also has to be a balance. And, because I'm created, I have my father both in. So I had to change the language of the male and female aspect and balance it. And that was really good because it needed to be in check anyway. And so I really want to encourage you guys to find guided imagery or to practice, or, there are many different ways to meditate, but find the way that is healthy for you, and that, you know, you wouldn't want to go a day without doing it. And, if I have a hard time sleeping, I'll meditate, and it gives me energy like crazy. So, and I've grown, and now I've been meditating nonstop since 2015, and it is amazing. So, you know, today you can heal, you can have the life of your wildest dreams. And I'm doing that with my cooking show, and I'm doing that with, so many things, and it's amazing. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you for being a part of the Melinda Malavo show.